Okay. They want to know that you don't fail. True. Okay. They want to know that you're not going to drop out. So they want to know that you're very, very ambitious and that you really, really want to finish this program that they're taking you in because, and how do you show them that you're in it for the long run? You show that by showing your long-term goals, right? That this program is a means to an end for you. You're not just here to get in because your parents told you have to go to this university. You have a long-term goal, and this university is going to get you to that long-term goal, right? So in answering the questions, you do have to mention your long-term goals. To see what you are outside of school, outside of the box thinking. Yes, they do want to see your ability to think outside of the box and answer questions in an interesting way and not just copy your answers off the internet. Because if you do look up university applications, supplementary essays for universities, you're going to get a bunch of answers and a bunch of samples. And what they want to see is that you have your own story. They definitely want to see that you're more than just your grades. So they want to see that you've had real life experiences that relate to your chosen field of study. And you're not just a bookworm who sat and did nothing but prepare for tests and read your textbooks, that you have knowledge and experience beyond your grades. That's one thing they want to see. There's something else that we haven't mentioned yet. I'm going to share my screen at this point and show you what I have. Okay, here. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so what they're trying to figure out about you, one thing that we haven't mentioned is that you have done your research on them, that you're not just recycling the same university application over and over again and sending it out to different universities. They want you to mention things about them that only someone who has done their research on that school would know. And we're going to look at some of the places where you can find that special information. They want to see that you're more than just your grades. Someone has already said that in the chat. One thing we didn't mention in the chat, they want to see social responsibility. So when you answer questions on your extracurricular activities, for example, if the question is something like, what have you done that you are proud of? And you say something like, I've been taking dance lessons since I was 5 years old, and I've participated in many dance competitions. Someone's dog is barking. And I've participated in many dance competitions, and I've won first place, and I am, I have stamina.
I'm tired. Please,
Okay, someone is not on mute. I'm not sure who it is. Okay. And I have stamina and I have discipline, and I'm really, really proud of winning all of those dance competitions. That does show discipline, but it doesn't show how what you've spent years doing helps everyone else, right? But if you mention, I've been dancing for a lot of years, and since I started high school, I've dedicated every single summer of my life to teaching younger kids to dance as a camp counselor at my dance camp. And I'm very proud of that contribution because dance improves children's self-esteem and their fitness level. And I'm very proud of being someone's mentor and someone's coach in something that helps them improve their self-esteem and their fitness. Right? That shows social responsibility, right? You're doing something to improve other people's lives, to improve your community's life. That's what they want to see. So when you talk about your extracurricular activities, make sure you show how what you've been doing has helped others. They also want to see that you're someone who can handle the pressure, right? So there's a lot of what was your greatest challenge? How do you, was a failure that you have faced? What was a time that you failed at something? They want to see resilience, and they want to see someone who's not going to cave under pressure, someone who's not going to cry, drop out, or blame others for failing a test, for example. So that's another thing that you want to show, that you're okay with failing. You can get up and try again and analyze what went wrong, or get help, and asking the right people for advice. You are a positive person. They do want to see that motivation and your ability to influence others. Positive meaning you work well with others, that you fit the vibe. The fit the vibe question is related to have you done your research question, because you have to know enough about the school to show that you fit their vibe. Right? If they have, for example, with some of the medical programs, if they have a hospital on campus and you do a lot of practicum, you fit the vibe. If they are a program that relies a lot on group work and group projects, then do you fit the vibe? Do you know about that? Have you done your research? Do you know that a lot of their projects are group projects? And do you love group projects? If they are a university that's located somewhere near an ocean, and they do a lot of research on the field because they have those facilities, do you love that kind of work? If they are a very competitive university like the University of Toronto, where there's pretty much no group work at all, you just have to sit there and study and study and study, do you fit that vibe? And that relates to showing that you've done research and you know what their vibe and their atmosphere is. And do you have a story to tell? This is something that makes you special. Do you have real life experiences that connect you to the field of study, right? Have you done things in the past that brought you to this field, or are you applying because everyone else is applying, right? So this shows how bad do you want to be in whatever designation or whatever field that are preparing you for, because ultimately they want somebody who's going to make them look good in the end. Are there any comments or questions so far? On what the universities are looking for? Okay. So then the next part of my presentation is, so those are the things they're trying to figure out from your application. And then we have things that they're looking for when they're reading your application. What are they check marking? What are they looking for? What does your application have to look like? Good communication skills, your writing skills, right? Even for math and science, university is a lot of writing. It's a lot of communication. They want to know that you can express yourself well. Definitely that. Well-rounded students. So if you're applying to a computer science program, they want to know that you have some experiences outside, that you haven't actually lived in your life in front of your computer the entire time, right? How do you show that you're a well-rounded person? In your application, you can bring up a quote from a philosopher. You can mention a character from a famous novel to show that you've read that novel. You can even mention something from a TV show. You can mention something from an experience that you had in a completely unrelated field. So, for example, if you are applying to a medical program, a lot of my students are, that's why I use that as examples. And they ask you something about what is it about what motivated you, your interest, what started your interest in medicine, for example. Then you want to mention an outside interest. Maybe you want to mention that you participated in a swimming competition and someone started drowning, or someone started having breathing difficulties, and you had this urge to stop everything you were doing. You forgot that you were competing and all you wanted to do was help that person. That shows compassion, but it also shows that you're well-rounded because you're doing something because you've had an experience that's very different from that's not strictly related to your field of study, your academic experience, but more your athletic side. So you're showing yourself as a well-rounded person. They want to know that what you really want to do is go to that particular school. And that comes from your evidence of research, saying something about them only and not just a general application of how wonderful you are. For example, if you're really into, if you know that they are into innovation and they do a lot of innovative projects and they're looking for people with that type of mindset, then mentioning something like, that's why Waterloo's rating is one of the most innovative universities, would motivate me to innovate and create new things. So something that connects you to that particular school. They want to know that you're passionate about the subject that you're going to study. So they want to know that you've had volunteer experience related to that subject, maybe a personal connection, maybe someone in your family, maybe you read a book and you felt like you relate to the character who was in that field, and you've made that connection years ago. Long-term goals. They want to know that you're someone who can make them look good when you graduate. They want to be proud of you. They want to say, that person, he went to our school, right? So they want to show that you're going to make a contribution to the field and to the world, not just, I want to go into the business program because I'll make a lot of money. They want to see that you're interested in something a little different. I've had students mention I want to go into a business program because a lot of businesses really need to start thinking about how their environmental footprint. And I care a lot about the environment, and in business management, it needs to change and needs to adjust to the new needs of the environment. Then they can see that you're well-rounded. You're not just about business, but you're connecting other things to that, and how you'll contribute to the world as they're a graduate. So they could be proud of you. They also want students who will join their clubs and associations. So that's part of your research. You do want to research their clubs, and you do want to mention in your applications that you're going to be joining those clubs and that you're interested. They want to know that you're creative, that you have good leadership skills, and that you can think outside of the box. so far, are there any questions about any specific universities? Because some of them, the universities like different types of questions. So if you know where you're applying, maybe Andrea and I have some insight on that particular university. You can either type your answer or, okay. McMaster, U of T. Okay, so McMaster is known, McMaster's University, okay. McMaster is known for having really, really interesting questions every single year. There is always one personality question, one question that gives you options. And McMaster posts their questions 2 months in advance. So you have a lot of time to think about it and you have a lot of time to prepare for McMaster's questions. This year is the first year that they've only asked 2 questions. McMaster always had 3 questions. This year they have only 2, which is something new that they're just doing this year. There is one personality question, and this year's was, if you were to go on a 5-year space mission with a partner, what kind of personality would your partner have to have? And they give you a breakdown of the different personality types and the different sets of skills that each personality type has. That's a very loaded question because it combines your strengths and weaknesses question, right? Because you have to choose a partner for yourself. That partner is going to complement your own strengths and weaknesses. So as you're talking about the personality of the partner you would choose, you're basically revealing your own strengths and weaknesses and how well you know yourself. And there's always one of those questions. In previous years, it wasn't a space mission. It was a starting a business with someone. And there's 6 different personality types that you want in business. And then they're asking you, which one do you think is the most important? Which of the 6? And then again, it's a weaknesses/strengths question because you have to explain why you think this personality type is the most important. And then your answer, you're revealing your own strengths and weaknesses. And their questions are usually about 300 words. There's also a teamwork question because McMaster is one of those universities that are known for relying a lot on group projects. So with McMaster, they do want people who can work on a team and who understand team dynamics. So there's always a team dynamic question. And this year's question, the space mission question, gets into that as well. How well do you understand space team dynamics, and how well do you understand working with others? There's always a question like that. And there's a data interpretation question where they give you either a map or they give you a table with different data on the table, either a disease and how that disease had spread over the years, or some kind of an allergy that skips a generation and affects, like the grandparents will have symptoms of that allergy and then the grandchildren do, and it skips generations, and it gives you information about that. And you have to put that information together and answer questions. Last year, there was a question on obesity in children who lived in different neighborhoods. And it gave you information on the income levels, the neighborhoods, the ages of the kids, their obesity index, and there was a chart, and you had to compare that information on the chart and explain it. So question about your attention to detail, but also your ability to write concise sentences and explain your ideas, and also the depth of your thinking, because the answer should show some knowledge about the topic as well. McMaster questions are a 1,500 character limit, which is about 300 words. This year there's 2 questions and they are a paragraph each, right? So 1,500 characters, which is about 300 words. So it's a half a page kind of thing, not an essay, just a paragraph, but there's 2 questions and they're difficult. McMaster, specific questions, U of T. U of T, depending on the program you're applying for, they ask you leadership related questions and challenge or failure questions. Every year there's a question that is a challenge / failure kind of question. And I have some samples. Queen's business, Queen's which program? Queen's University or Ryerson University business program. Okay. Queen's business asks, the questions that they love asking is, describe a time when. So describe a time when you failed at something. And that could be worded different ways. Describe a time when you were disappointed in yourself or disappointed others. That's a failure question. Describe a time when you faced, when you regretted your decision. That's a failure question. It's just slightly differently worded. Describe a time when you were faced with when you disappointed yourself. Describe a mistake that you made. That's a failure question. So it will be worded differently. Describe a time when you were faced with a challenge, right? So that's still a failure question. They love those. Describe a time when you demonstrated leadership. If you could help a disadvantaged group of people, which group of people would you help? That's a social responsibility question, right? That's when you want to talk about the ways in which you want to contribute to the world. Queen's health science asks very similar type of questions to leadership, resilience, social responsibility. In previous years, Queen's posted their questions ahead of time, but they changed their questions every 30 days. So you go on their website right now, if you don't answer their question within 30 days, when you log in 30 days, it's going to be a different set of questions. So they only give you a month to answer, but the questions are available a month ahead. And then they changed the questions. Queen's health science, Queen's business, Queen's art programs. Queen's art programs, I haven't had a student applying to Queen's art programs, so I don't know. If they even have a supplementary applications essay. They might not have one. None of my students came to me with that. Waterloo computer science, Waterloo math and finance. Okay, so Waterloo computer science, math and finance had general questions. So one of Waterloo's, so basically just a general question is something that basically checks your writing skills and your maturity level, not really knowledge of your computer science. So what's one thing that you're really proud of was a question. Finance had a different set of questions, but computer science, I'll talk about computer science first. What does belonging mean to you was one of their questions last year. And then it's an essay. So you write about what does belonging mean to you, and you can interpret it in many different ways, but it's an essay. So you do have to have the introduction, conclusion, and the 3 body paragraphs, which means that belonging means 3 different things to you. And they do want to see all the things that we talked about earlier, right? So for example, what does belonging mean to you, or what does happiness mean to you? It's a question, could be worded many different ways, but it's the same question. It checks your long-term goals. So then you would say, one aspect of belonging is that I am in a place where I am working towards my long-term goals. And then what your long-term goals are, right? One, social responsibility as well. Another important aspect of my happiness, or of me feeling like I belong, is that I am able to help others in areas that I care about. And then you talk about how much you care about the environment, how much you care about opening doors for girls to go into STEM. I've had students talk about volunteering in various in libraries, various settings where they tutor younger kids so that more girls could go into science programs, for example. And Waterloo Computer Science had a general question, and they do this a lot, and other universities do too. Tell us a little bit about yourself, or any additional information that what makes you a good candidate for our program. And then you have to talk about 3 things. You have to talk about what you have done up to this moment that makes you a good candidate, which should relate to your field of study and your general skills as a good student. What you know about them to show that you've done your research, and that makes you a good candidate because you are perfect for their specific program and you know a lot about it, therefore you know that you're a perfect candidate. And how the program that you're applying to fits with your long-term goals. So basically, past, present, future, what you have done up to this point that led you to them, what you know about them now, and how you're a good match, and how you're going to make them proud in the future with the education that they give you, because your goals align with theirs. Waterloo Math and Finance, those are the questions. Math and Finance had a question about your contribution to society, right? So they want to see that you're going into finance not for money, but because you care about something. So that's when you talk about environmentally friendly business practices, when you talk about women in business, something that shows social responsibility on your part. They do have, every year they have a question that asks you to think about, how are you going to contribute to the world, and how do you think businesses, what is one thing that businesses should be more responsible for, that kind of thing. So it's all about social responsibility. Ryerson has, from what I know from my students, more of an interview kind of thing. So the questions are not available ahead of time. You have an appointment with them online and you record your answers in real time. So they give you a question pops up. You have like 2 minutes to prepare, and then you record your answer. And those are pretty much a challenge question, a failure question, and what makes you a good candidate for this program type of question. They're all the same. Are there any? Okay, so those are the universities. Schulich is another one that does a Ryerson model kind of thing, where the questions, you have an appointment, you log on, and the questions pop up and you have to answer them in real time as well. So that's Schulich, if anyone. Ryerson's supplementary questions. Windsor, I have not come across any from Windsor.
Mind if I chime in for the supplementary for York?
Okay.
So with York, it depends on the programs. My sister, she went to the design program at York and she had to do a portfolio. She had to go And for Bachelor of Fine Arts, you have to go audition. So they have specific requirements in addition to the written component. And for the teaching program at York, they do a supplementary application where you do have a log where you write about how many hours you volunteered. You need to give the contact information of the coordinator you volunteered with, and you have a paragraph of each and every experience you volunteered at. Specifically, what they're looking for is students who did a co-op in a classroom, or students who worked in a summer camp, students who have experience working with special needs. And it's the idea that you have this variety and you have exposure within the classroom. That really helps make your application really strong. The acceptance rate for that program at York is much higher than U of T. So, and the open houses also give a lot more information.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to my sample questions. I'm going to show you. Oh, I wanted to talk about what not to do. What not to do on a university application. One thing that you don't want to do is you don't want your application to look like a list of words to mention on a university application. Because if you Google words or qualities to mention on a university application, you're going to get a list of a bunch of adjectives and wonderful words that you should put on your university application. You don't want your paragraphs to look like you're just listing those words. You have to connect with whoever's reading it, needs to connect to you on a personal level. They need to know your story. So don't make it look like a list. I'll show you, I'm going to share my screen again and show you an example of what not to do here. So this student is writing about her experience of moving from Ontario to Texas on her own or without her mom and her sister. I became more mature, social, responsible for myself and my dad, independent. Responsibilities, I learned how to cook. I improved myself, my lifestyle, because I wanted to be a better version of myself. I made friends, improved my academics, became more involved in my community, changed my habits, and became more active. So this is just a list, right? There's no story here that shows what the person did. Right. So you do want to have, you want to make yourself look good, obviously, but you want to show a change. You want to show the circumstances that changed you. Don't just make it a list of words that make you look good. That's not going to work. And another thing you don't want to do, and it's a misconception that a lot of students ask me about, they say, I heard that to get in, you have to tell them a tearful, sad story about your tragic life. A lot of people, unfortunately, have had tragic experiences in the past few years, tragic experiences that, 17 and 18-year-old students applying to universities should not have ever experienced. But unfortunately, a lot of them do. And the tragedies don't make you a good candidate for university. So unfortunately, just that alone doesn't work. You have to show how that the emphasis with a tragic experience, if you did have one, and I'm really sorry if you did, the emphasis needs to be not on the tragic experience, but on how that experience led you to your passion and ultimately to this program, right? So for example, I had a student write about studying, it was a medical program she was applying to, and she wanted to study, and she mentioned that her grandmother had dementia, and she did a lot of research on the changes in the brain, and she wants to become a neuroscientist. So the tragic experience led her to discover her passion for neuroscience, right? I had students who were victims of terrorist attacks, and they used that again to show how their priority was in helping people. I had one student who used his experience of being a victim of a terrorist attack in going into cybersecurity, and he applied for the computer science program at U of T. I think someone was asking me, or Waterloo, someone was asking me about a computer science program. So he said that, so he was a victim, but the emphasis in the application was not on the terrorist attack. It was on how terrorists are using technology in more and more advanced ways. And that's why it's so important that we have professionals who can are good at detecting those techniques. And he wants to go into cybersecurity, and connected that experience to his passion for the program, for the field that he was applying into. So the emphasis is on that. It's on the tragic experience needs to connect to your passion, and it needs to connect to the social responsibility and how you're going to help make the world a better place because of that experience. Not just how that experience made you a stronger person. That's not enough. You have to find a way to connect the tragic experience to the field. Not to say that you have to have a tragic experience. You don't have to have a tragic experience, obviously. But a lot of students have been asking me, is it true that you have to tell them a really sad story about yourself? No, it's not true. And if you do have a sad story, make sure it's something that connects to your field of study and shows social responsibility and passion for the field, not just the fact that you survived a tragic experience. That's not going to be enough. Okay, so those are two things of what not to do. Don't just try to elicit pity. That's not going to work. And don't make your application a list of adjectives that make you look good without there being a story to yourself. All right, sample questions. And then I'll ask you what you think they're looking for. So from the list of things that they're looking for, now there's specific questions. Taxes in university, we believe that diversity is an important part of academic excellence and that it is essential to living our core values: loyalty, integrity, excellence, leadership, respect, and selfless service. That's their core values. Describe the benefits of diversity and inclusion for you personally and for taxes in campus community. 300 words. What do you think they're looking for with this question? This question is an opportunity for you to show them what exactly, because each question is an opportunity. And I'm gonna stop sharing and see if anyone is answering. So diversity on campus is an opportunity for you to show them, well, obviously your writing skills. But in addition to your writing skills, that you fit the vibe exactly. And for that, you need to do research on them. Beyond the university's website, let's just talk about this for a second. You need to do research on the university. Beyond the university's website, where else can you do research on the university? Beyond their website. Alumni, yes. talk with people from the university, visit the campus. Okay, visit the campus. Universities have their publications. They have their, universities have their blogs. They have their newspapers that they publish. So read those. University programs. Each program will have a blog where they post weekly things. Students that go to university, some of them are bloggers, some of them are YouTubers who talk about the program that they're studying. So look at those. Find the professors that are teaching and then go to their personal websites and read what they're publishing and what they're writing as well. Any other, definitely visit the campus, but look for the blogs that and the Facebook pages of the different campuses, not campuses, but the different programs will have their Facebook groups.
Can I chime in?
Of course.
So just like the example for social inclusion and diversity, I remember, and when Maria brought up like going to the professor's website, I remember going to the open house at UFT for grad school. And I connected with the professor, and I never realized when I was connecting that she was the director of this program that I was applying for. And she sent me, I sent her my email and my info, and she sent me a link to her projects, which is Many Roots and Many Voices. So after reading her research, I was able to take all that information that she published and adapt it to why I wanted to be in that program. So my obstacle was I was an immigrant. So it's not a sad story, but it's more understanding the barriers. And I remember as a teacher, I was taking this ESL AQ so I could teach others, like so I could understand where students who came from other countries have these similar language and social barriers. And I connected that experience to my professor's research. And then I tailored my personal statement to that program. What I also learned about UFT is that when they talked about diversity, they have this theme. They call this like the EDI lens, which is equity, diversity, and inclusivity. So knowing those code words or code phrases from those student success programs, I was able to like tailor that and talk and write a paragraph in that personal statement.
Okay. So I'm just looking at the answers. Yeah, it is a question. The diversity question does give you an opportunity to show your social responsibility. That you fit the vibe, that you're a good fit. And then, yeah, we talked about all these different ways that you can research additional information. And if you mention, don't forget to mention that research in your answer, right? From your blog, I know that from visiting the so-and-so's website, looking at the research that they've done, and then, and also this is also a question to tell your story and your own experience with diversity. Either through volunteering, through your personal life, living in different countries, speaking different languages, interacting with different people. A lot of my students, though, I was doing this with a student recently, and she said, you know what, Marie, I feel like I have more diversity. And this was a computer science program at Waterloo. And she said, what diversity do they expect? A computer geek is a computer geek, right? And she says, you know, I did visit the campus and I have more diversity in my kitchen than they do on campus because of the different backgrounds in her family. So they want to see those experiences. Okay. What's my other question? Let me present this one. Share screen. Okay. This is a typical failure question. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Okay, so in addition to showing off your writing skills, this question is an opportunity to show what about yourself? This is not a kind of question where you can show research about the university, but what can you show? Let's see what we get. So a failure, a challenge, a setback is an opportunity to show what about yourself? Your personality, what specifically about your personality though? Your personality is a very general answer. Which aspects of your personality do you want to show here? It's not just something like kindness and honesty, but things that they want to see. Working under pressure. Yes, your ability to work under pressure. Your ability to learn from your mistakes, right? To learn and to adapt, to change your ways. So I did this, and then it was a bad idea. So I've adapted my tactics, and now I do things differently. Yes, adapt to difficult situations. You don't give up, you fight back. Don't give up is an interesting thing because you also want to show your dedication to the future. You know how we said they're looking for people who are going to make them proud in the long run. So your ability to focus on your long-term goal, right? And not let small failures divert you from that, right? So I wanted to be an astronaut. I failed a math test. I took the course again. I changed my study tactics. I didn't just say, okay, I guess I can't be an astronaut. I'm going to be something else, right? So that you are focused on your long-term goal and you don't let the small things get to you. That's important to mention when you're doing the failure question, that you kept going because you really want something in that future. You see where you're going. That you can learn from mistakes, absolutely, and how you overcome challenges. And how you overcome challenges is important as well. You need to show that you overcome challenges through focusing on your long-term goals and growing personally. So learning how to do things differently, right? And not just, and it has to be very specific. So it can't be something like, so I started working harder and started managing my time better. That's a very general answer. To make it more truthful, to make it more realistic, you would say, I researched various time management techniques and I came across, was it, and whose book do I have? Angela Duck. Okay. Just because it's here in front of me, I'm going to mention it, but you can mention anyone else who writes about time management. So instead of saying, I started managing my time better, which is just a general statement, anyone would make that statement, and it doesn't make you look, it doesn't prove that you actually started managing your time better. But if you say, I came across Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, and I read it and I took her tips on managing my time better. Now that makes you look like you really know what you're talking about. You really did do your research. You came across someone who's well known in the field, and that's not just an empty statement. I started managing my time better. That's a statement that could only come from someone who actually did look up time management techniques and came across a person or a well-known book in that field, right? So you don't want to make general statements. And if you say work ethics, mention someone who writes about work ethics. And if you, focusing difficulties and then you've overcome your focusing difficulties, mention actual techniques and a name of someone who writes about those techniques, that kind of thing. That you can learn from. Mistakes, what could be an example of a failure to mention, like a real one? Oh, what could be an example of a failure to mention? It doesn't have to be a failure, it could be a challenge. A lot of my students talk about if you're an athlete, then sports injuries are always good to mention. Taking on too much and then failing at it because you lacked focus. So you're in chess club and in dance class, and then you take art class, and then you also you went into robotics competition, and because you had so much on, your marks started slipping, for example. And then you had to kind of do an inventory and only keep the things that were related to your long-term goal rather than all those other fun things, for example, would be a good failure to mention. What else? Yeah, usually with like tests or presentations, not being prepared for a presentation. Leadership kind of situations, because if you failed at something that involves you being a leader, that shows that you've had that leadership experience, right? I was planning an event at school, let's say debates or some event at school, and I forgot to contact, and there was so much that I forgot to do this. So among all the wonderful things you've done, you forgot one. You're still making yourself look good, but that one small failure. And then you had to learn to delegate to other people and pick the right people for the right job on your team, for example. And that's how you overcome what you learned from that failure, for example. So that still makes you look good because you've had that leadership experience, and you did a lot of things right. You did that one thing wrong, but you learned from it. Andrea, any other failures that students have mentioned that were good lately?
I think it's more having obstacles and showing that you can be resilient. Learn from it, how you overcame that, and how you can connect with the research and program. And I think the overarching theme is how you want to be part of the program where you could go back and help students who have similar circumstances. I think that's a good narrative arc to say, after learning what I learned from this program, go revisit my culture, my community, and implement all the new learnings that I learned in this program and create this thing where other people in my same circumstances can overcome those obstacles. I think that's what they would also like to see. That's a theme that I've used in my personal supplementary statements and in my grad school statements, and I've got in. So that's the same narrative trope that others have said they've used in similar situations, and they succeeded in getting into those programs.
And it shows social responsibility, because not only have you learned something that you're going to apply to your own success, but you're going to share it and make other people successful as well. I have another question. I'm going to share that last one. Oh, coronavirus question. That's been showing up here and there in applications. Actually, computer science application I was working on last week had this question. During the coronavirus pandemic, our lives have changed dramatically. For some of us, this has meant significant changes to other personal, family, and community lives. You might have spent time caring for people around you. You might have spent more time on academic work than usual. You might have been able to use this as an opportunity for growth in other ways. Please tell us about 2 or 3 of the most significant things that have taken your time during the pandemic. 900 characters. Oh, one thing I want to caution everyone against is this number, when they tell you how many words or characters. I had a student applying to computer science at Waterloo, and I didn't look at the question myself. She brought the question in, and I never bothered to go on their website and check the question. And she said, it's 900 words. And we wrote a 900-word essay. And then she came back a couple of days later and said, you know what, it's 900 characters, not 900 words. So be very careful with that. If it says 900 characters, it's not 900 words. So look very carefully at the word limit. Okay, so the pandemic question, what has occupied your time during the pandemic? The question itself gives you opportunities to talk about social responsibility, right? You might have spent time caring for other people. You might have spent time on academic work. You might have been able to use the opportunity to grow in other ways. Please mention 2 or 3 things. They ask for 2 or 3 things, but they give you the 3 things, right? They say caring for other people. So it's like they're saying, show us your social responsibility. Show us your study habits. Show us your personal growth. So they're kind of giving it away in this question. So this is an opportunity to show what about yourself? And this question makes it easy because they're giving it away, but you may get a more generally worded, phrased question, something that just says, how has the pandemic and the lockdowns affected you? It's the same question. You can show social responsibility. You can show how it's changed your academic habits. You can show how you used this opportunity to grow, to take an online course, to learn something new, to work on a lot of my computer science. Students have an easy time answering this question because they worked on creating software, developing something new. If you're applying to finance or business programs, you can talk about how you learned to invest and you've experimented with the stock market a little bit and all that free time that you had when everything else was closed. New part-time job, right? More time to study the field outside of school, right? So following other professionals or taking an actual course in the field. We're reading up on the field. Yeah. A new part-time job shows that you're adaptable too, right? Most people were unable to get, well, unless you're adapting, then because a lot of places that employ students were closed or downsized during the pandemic. So getting a part-time job is a challenge. Volunteering might be another thing. Okay, let me see if I have any other good questions that I collected over the years. Oh, there's a good one. Describe a time when you demonstrated creativity in solving a problem. A very open-ended question. And then there's some quotes-based questions. This one showed up. I've seen this question. It reads, when do you begin telling someone that their world is not the only one? in the past few years, this question has shown up on Carleton's application. And then the following year, the same question showed up on one of Ryerson's applications. I think it was their interior design and architecture program. The same question that had been used by a different university the previous year. So they do recycle questions. And I've seen this question 3 times. So Carleton, Ryerson, and then I don't remember which one. I think it could have even been Western. Don't know which program. But this question has shown up several times. Lessons from obstacles, I talked about that. Describe a life event. Now, this is a tragic story kind of question, or it could be a tragic story kind of question. Describe a life event which you feel has prepared you to be successful in college. So there you go. This one, life event is an opportunity. If you do have a tragic life event, but it could be a happy life event. It could be an event where you met someone or learned something. It could be a failure as well. It could be you experiencing a failure, and that was the event that prepared you for success in college. And you can split that answer into the different the different aspects of success, the different qualities that make a person successful, and how you acquired those qualities through this question. A person that has had an impact on your life is not a very common question. Describe an example of a situation where you took on a leadership role, helped resolve a dispute, or contributed to a group's goal. Oh, there's one from Waterloo. Please tell us about your educational goals, your interests in your chosen programs, and your reasons for applying to the University of Waterloo. If you have applied to more than one program, please discuss your interests in each program. Again, 900 characters. So this one is, again, the past experience, your research on them, and how they align with your long-term goals. This is the past, present, future type of question. Another social responsibility question. Describe a group, organization, or community which you have been involved in. How long have you been involved? Describe the impact of your involvement for your field, because it has to connect to the field of study and align with your long-term goals, and maybe personal growth as well. So what you learned from being involved in that group or that community. Witnessed. Okay. Why did you choose this program? Past, present, future type of question. Okay. Now they just get repetitive because they're all the same type of questions. So this is all that I wanted to share today. If anyone has any questions, Andrea and I will be happy to answer them now. And you can type your question, or you can unmute and ask at this point. What if you do not really know what to say? What should you start with? Okay. The easy answer is, if you don't know what to say, then you should not start writing until you know what to say. the way that you should start approaching the question is ask yourself the question that I've been asking you today. This question, so you look at the question and you ask yourself, this question is an opportunity to show what about myself? Right? This question is an opportunity to show what about myself. So then, can I show my discipline and my study habits? Can I show my social responsibility? Can I show passion for my field? Can I show all the research I've done on the university? So that's where you would start. What are they looking for? And what is this an opportunity for me to show? And then you make a list of the things that you can demonstrate about yourself, and then you start writing and rewriting and revising. By grade 12, you know that writing is a step-by-step process. So you write once and then you change things up. What if you don't know what to say? What should you start with? So start with asking yourself, what does this question give me an opportunity to demonstrate about myself? Can we get a video record of this session? I spoke to Tatiana and I'm going to share the video record with her, and then she'll post it in the group, in her group. You can also message me for that as well. Thank you so much for doing this. Please post your contact info here. Thank you. Contact info. Well, my name is Marie. And you can find me on Facebook, and on my Facebook page, there will be a link to the website, and I'm happy to respond. And that is my actual name, and that's my my name on Facebook as well. And that's probably the easiest way to contact me, because if I leave my phone number here, it's going to get lost. But my name is always going to stay on Facebook, and I'll respond. Thank you for joining us. Kirill, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We had a really good turnout today. We went from, I think it doubled since last year. I think we had about 16 people last year. So it's exciting to have twice, more than twice. Wow. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure, and best of luck to everyone who is applying this year. And if you're not applying this year, then take your time to look into the different schools and choose your passion and your program carefully. It's never too early to start looking at the different universities and visiting universities. I think I was in grade 5 when my dad asked me what I wanted to do, and he got me thinking about universities. So it's never too early. And he told me not to limit my choices to one country. He said, you can go to university anywhere in the world, so pick whatever you want. And that really opened up my perspective as well. It was amazing. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. Wow. Thank you so much for saying that. Maybe we should stop recording. Yes, that's a good idea, Andrew. How do we stop recording? How do I stop recording? I'm serious. Oh, here.